At my son's funeral, my daughter-in-law looked me straight in the eye and said, "Stop crying, pack your bags, and get out of my house now." She called me a worthless burden in front of everyone. But here's what Amanda didn't know, the house she was kicking me out of. I built it in 1987. The money she thought she inherited, $285,000, that was always mine. I'm Howard Pierce, 61 years old. What happened next changed everything. Picture this. Your boy just died in a car wreck. You're standing there in your old gray suit, the same one you wore to your wife's funeral 2 years back, and this woman who's been living off your generosity for 6 years tells you to pack up and leave. Amanda stood there in her $400 black dress, talking to me like I was some charity case who overstayed his welcome. "This is my house now, Howard," she said, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. "Danny left everything to me. You can't afford to live here anymore on your little Social Security check." I just nodded and walked away. Sometimes the best thing you can do is let people dig their own graves. See, Amanda made one big mistake. She assumed that because I drove a 12-year-old pickup truck and shopped with coupons, I must be broke. She saw me helping Danny with groceries and yard work and figured I was the dependent one. Wrong on both counts. Let me back up a bit. The trouble started the day Danny died. I was still in shock, couldn't even think straight, when Amanda swooped in and took charge of everything. The funeral home, the flowers, even the music. When I suggested playing Sweet Caroline Danny, and I used to sing that while working on the house, she shut me down quick. "That's depressing, Howard. We need something uplifting." Like she knew my boy better than his own father. At the reception, she cornered me in my own kitchen. "We need to talk about your situation," she said. "Your situation. Like I was a problem to be solved. Danny was supporting you financially." She continued, "With him gone, I can't carry that burden. This house is mine now, everything is mine." I poured myself coffee from the pot rose and I bought at a yard sale 20 years ago and listened to Amanda rewrite history. According to her version, I was the broke old man and Danny was the successful provider. She had no idea that the help Danny gave me was actually my own money flowing back home through the family trust I'd set up years before. The signs had been there from day one, but I'd ignored them because she made Danny happy. Amanda was one of those people who measured everything by appearances. She drove a leased BMW, bought designer everything, and posted her whole life on social media for likes and comments. To her, my simple lifestyle meant I was struggling. What she didn't know was that I'd learned the value of keeping quiet about money from 35 years working the floor at Midwest Auto Parts. Started there straight out of high school in 1982, working the assembly line, making $8.50 square an hour. By the time I retired last year, I was floor supervisor pulling in $68,000 plus overtime. But you don't flash cash around working guys. You live below your means, save every penny, and mind your own business. Amanda saw my 15-year-old Ford pickup and assumed poverty. She didn't know I paid cash for it after my old one died. No financing, no monthly payments. She saw me using coupons at Kroger and figured desperation. She didn't know I'd been clipping coupons since the Carter administration. Because that's how you build wealth, $90 at a time, week after week, year after year. See, working factory teaches you things. You learn that the guy driving the flashy car is usually the one living paycheck to paycheck. You learn that real money moves quiet. You learn to save for the layoffs that always come, the injuries that might happen, the family emergencies nobody sees coming. Rose understood this. God rest her soul, that woman could stretch a dollar until it screamed. We bought this lot in 1987 for $28,000 cash money. I'd saved from 5 years of double shifts and Rose's life insurance from her first husband who died in a factory accident. Built the house for another $85,000, paying the contractors in cash as the work progressed. No mortgage, no interest, no monthly payments hanging over our heads. Amanda gave me 30 days. 30 days to find appropriate senior housing on what she figured was a $1,200 Social Security check. She even printed out brochures for Meadowbrook Senior Living. "It's only $900 a month for a studio apartment," she said. Like she was doing me a favor. "What about food?" I asked. "Transportation, medical bills," she shrugged. "There are programs for people in your situation. Food stamps, Medicaid. The government takes care of senior citizens. The government, like I was some charity case who'd never contributed anything to society. Like I hadn't worked 35 years paying into the system every single week, earning my benefits the hard way. That's when I knew I had to teach this girl a lesson about assumptions. But first, I needed to gather my ammunition. The morning after her ultimatum, I went down to the basement and opened the filing cabinet I'd maintained since 1985. 4 drawers of organized records going back decades. Every receipt, every tax return, every document that mattered. Rose used to joke that I was like a squirrel down there, storing away every piece of paper like they were acorns for winter. You never know when you'll need proof of something, I'd tell her. She'd roll her eyes and remind me that normal people didn't keep 35 years of pay stubs. But I wasn't normal people. I was a factory guy who'd learned early that paper trails tell stories, and stories protect you when memories fail or people lie. In the bottom drawer was the folder marked Real Estate -447 Oak Street. Inside was the original deed from March 1987. Howard Pierce, sole owner. No co-signers, no mortgage, no joint ownership. I'd paid cash for the lot and construction using Rose's life insurance money from her first husband minus $45,000 plus my own savings from 5 years of pulling double shifts at Midwest Auto Parts. Back then, I was making $12.50 an hour regular time, $18.75 overtime. I'd work my regular 40, then pick up every extra shift I could get. Weekends, holidays, didn't matter. Rose would pack me dinner in a brown bag, and I'd eat it sitting on the loading dock at 2 in the morning, watching my overtime pay stack up in the bank. Danny's name appeared nowhere on any ownership documents. He'd grown up in this house, sure, lived here as an adult for a few years after college, but owned it. Never. The beautiful irony was in the next folder, the Howard and Rose Pierce Family Trust documents, current balance as of last month. $285,340.77. Not bad for a factory guy who supposedly couldn't afford to live in his own house. See, Rose and I weren't stupid about money. We'd seen too many guys at the plant get laid off with nothing to show for 20 years of work. So we saved everything we could, invested in CDs and treasury bonds, nothing fancy but steady growth. When Rose got sick, we used the trust to pay for treatments insurance wouldn't cover. After she died, it became mine alone. Danny had been a beneficiary during his lifetime, receiving monthly allowances for his car payments, wedding expenses, and other needs. The boy was good with computers, graduated with an engineering degree, landed a decent job right out of college, but he was never much for managing money, so I'd help him out when he needed it. Transfers from the trust account to his checking. Amanda saw those transfers and assumed they were going the other way. The really beautiful part, Danny's life insurance policy, the $15,000 Amanda was already spending in her head, listed the trust as beneficiary, which meant it belonged to me, not her. I sat there in my basement, surrounded by 35 years of careful documentation, and realized Amanda had made the classic mistake. She'd confused appearances with reality. The next few days were interesting. Amanda started making plans like she owned the place. She had contractors over to look at the kitchen, talking about updating this outdated 1980s look. She was on the phone with real estate agents, discussing property values and renovation costs. She even posted about it on Facebook, something about inheriting family property and honoring Danny's memory through improvements. Meanwhile, I was making plans of my own. I called Beverly Collins, the lawyer who'd been handling my affairs for 15 years. Beverly knew my situation better than anyone. She'd helped set up the trust, handled Rose's estate when she passed, made sure all my paperwork was bulletproof. "Bev," I said, "I need to have a conversation with my daughter-in-law, the kind that requires witnesses." Beverly listened while I explained the situation. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "Howard," she said, "finally, are you sure you want to do this publicly? We could handle this privately, just serve her with the paperwork and let her figure it out." "No," I said. Amanda made her assumptions public. She called me a burden in front of half the neighborhood. She's been telling people I'm broke, that Danny was supporting me, that I'm too old and confused to manage my own affairs. If she wants to lie publicly, she can learn the truth publicly. "Your choice," Beverly said. "When do you want to do this?" "Soon." Let her dig the hole a little deeper first, and dig she did. Over the weekend, Amanda invited 2 of her marketing agency colleagues over to see her inherited property. I watched from my bedroom window as they walked around the yard pointing at things, taking notes. Later, I heard them in the kitchen talking renovation costs and timeline. "The old man should be out by next month," Amanda was saying, "then we can really get started. I'm thinking granite countertops, stainless appliances, maybe knock out this wall to open up the space." They were planning to gut my kitchen. The one Rose and I had designed together, where we'd eaten breakfast every morning for 30 years, where she'd taught Danny to make Sunday pancakes when he was 8 years old. That night, I made another call, this time to Jerry Foster, one of Danny's old friends who worked in IT security. "Jerry," I said, "I need a favor. Amanda's been posting things about me on social media that aren't exactly true. Can you help me document what she's saying?" Jerry was happy to help. Turns out Amanda had been quite busy online, building a whole narrative about the elderly father-in-law she was helping transition to appropriate care. There were posts asking for recommendations for senior living facilities, sympathy-seeking updates about dealing with aging parents who refuse to face reality, even a subtle GoFundMe campaign hinting that donations would help with my care expenses. She was crowdfunding off my supposed poverty while living in my house rent-free. Jesus, Howard, Jerry said after showing me the screenshots. She's got 200 people thinking you're some kind of charity case. Half the neighborhood's been talking about how generous she is, taking care of her confused father-in-law. Well, I said, maybe it's time they learned the whole story. Tuesday morning, I walked into Amanda's marketing agency office. She was in the middle of a presentation to clients, something about digital brand management. Through the glass conference room walls, I could see her gesturing at charts and graphs, looking confident and professional. I waited in the lobby until she finished, then approached the receptionist. "I'm here to see Amanda Pierce," I said. "It's about her inheritance." The receptionist looked confused. "Your inheritance, sir?" "That's right," I said. "Amanda's been making some claims about property she thinks she inherited. I'm here to clear up the confusion." 5 minutes later, Amanda appeared in the lobby, her professional smile already slipping. "Howard, what are you doing here?" "We need to talk," I said calmly, privately. "I'm at work, Howard. This isn't appropriate." Beverly Collins walked through the front door, right on schedule. "Actually, Amanda, this is very appropriate. I'm Beverly Collins, attorney at law. We need to discuss some urgent legal matters regarding your late husband's estate." The words attorney and legal matters had an immediate effect. Amanda's face went pale, and I could see her mind racing. Around the office, conversations slowed as other employees pretended to work while clearly listening. "Can we use your conference room?" Beverly asked politely. Amanda nodded, leading us to the glass-walled room where she'd been doing her presentation minutes earlier. As we settled in, I noticed her 2 colleagues from the house tour standing nearby, obviously curious about what was happening. "Actually," Beverly said, "I think Amanda's colleagues should hear this too. They've been helping plan renovations based on some assumptions that need to be corrected." "What assumptions?" Amanda asked, but her confident voice had developed a tremor. Beverly opened her briefcase and pulled out the first folder. "You've been telling people you inherited a house at 447 Oak Street. Is that correct?" "Yes. Danny left everything to me in his will." "And you have documentation of this inheritance?" "Of course I do." "Danny's will clearly states, Danny's will left his personal property to you," Beverly interrupted. "His car, his clothing, his personal effects." But Danny didn't own a house. The words dropped into the conference room like stones into still water. Through the glass walls, I could see the entire office had gone quiet. "That's impossible," Amanda said. "Danny paid the mortgage, the taxes, the utilities, everything." Beverly pulled out the deed. 447 Oak Street is owned by Howard Pierce. Purchased March 15, 1987 with cash. No mortgage, no co-signers, no joint ownership. Amanda snatched the paper and stared at it like it was written in a foreign language. "This has to be wrong. Danny lived there his whole life." "As Howard's son," Beverly said. In Howard's house, one of Amanda's colleagues stepped closer to the glass wall. I could see her mouthing, "Oh my God," to someone behind her. "I don't understand," Amanda said. "Danny had money. Good money. He was successful. Danny was comfortable because Howard made sure he was comfortable," Beverly explained, pulling out more documents. "Property tax records for 37 years, all paid by Howard Pierce. Insurance policies, utility bills, maintenance contracts, everything showing continuous ownership." Amanda's boss, a middle-aged man in an expensive suit, had joined the audience outside the conference room. He was watching with the kind of expression you see when someone realizes they might have a problem employee. But Danny was supporting Howard, Amanda insisted. "I saw the money transfers. Danny was always helping with expenses." Beverly opened the trust documents, the Howard and Rose Pierce Family Trust. Current balance $285,347. Danny was a beneficiary during his lifetime, receiving monthly allowances for education, car payments, wedding expenses, and personal needs. "You're saying Howard was supporting Danny?" one of Amanda's colleagues asked through the glass. "I'm saying Howard was supporting his son from his own resources." Beverly replied, "The financial support flowed from Howard to Danny, not the other way around." The silence in that conference room was deafening. Amanda's face had gone from pale to gray. Around us, the entire marketing agency was watching their colleagues' world collapse in real time. "The life insurance," Amanda said desperately. "Danny's life insurance policy, that's mine." Beverly pulled out the policy. "The beneficiary of Daniel Pierce's life insurance is the Howard and Rose Pierce Family Trust." No, Amanda's voice was barely a whisper. "Yes, the policy lists the trust as sole beneficiary. That means the $150,000 belongs to Howard." I watched Amanda process this information. All those renovation plans, all those assumptions about her inheritance, all those social media posts about her generous support of her elderly father-in-law, it was all built on lies she'd told herself. Her boss tapped on the glass and gestured for her to step outside. Through the walls, I could see him asking urgent questions while Amanda tried to explain. Her colleagues were backing away like she had something contagious. When she came back in, her professional composure was completely gone. "Howard," she said, her voice shaking, I didn't know I made assumptions. Yes, you did, I replied, and you never bothered to ask respectfully. You just decided I was a burden and tried to throw me out of my own house. Beverly closed the folders. Amanda, you have 30 days to find alternative housing arrangements. 30 days, but where will I go? That's not Howard's concern anymore, Beverly said. You're a capable adult with a career. I'm sure you'll figure something out. Amanda looked around the conference room, then through the glass walls at her colleagues who were pretending not to stare. Can we work something out? Some kind of arrangement? I considered the question. The entire office was watching, waiting to see how this would end. Amanda, I said finally, respect isn't negotiable. It never was. I understand that now. Do you? Because calling someone a burden at their child's funeral isn't just disrespectful. It's cruel. And there's a difference between grief and cruelty. Her boss appeared at the conference room door. Amanda, can I see you for a moment? As we packed up to leave, I could hear urgent conversations starting throughout the office. Amanda's credibility hadn't just collapsed. It had imploded publicly, in front of her professional colleagues, in the industry where reputation matters most. Howard, she called after me as we reached the lobby. What happens now? I turned back. Now you learn what I've always known. What's that? That quiet people aren't weak people. We're just selective about when we use our voices. The next week was like watching dominoes fall. Word spread through our neighborhood faster than gossip at a church social. Patricia Wilson, my neighbor for 25 years, brought me coffee and the latest updates every morning. Amanda's moving to Columbus, Patricia said on Thursday. Found a job with some marketing firm down there. Fresh start, she told Helen Rodriguez. Good for her, I said, and I meant it. Sometimes the best thing that can happen to someone is learning they're not as smart as they thought they were. There's more, Patricia continued, stirring her coffee. 3 of her clients at the agency asked to be reassigned. Apparently, if you can't figure out who owns a house you've been living in for 6 years, people start questioning your attention to detail. I hadn't considered that angle, but it made sense. In business, competence matters. Amanda had publicly demonstrated poor judgment, and her clients noticed. And that GoFundMe thing, Patricia added. The one where she was asking for donations to help with your care expenses. She had to shut it down and refund $800 to 12 different people. Turns out when folks discovered you're actually well off, they wanted their money back. Jerry Foster stopped by Friday evening with more digital evidence. He'd been tracking Amanda's social media cleanup, deleting posts, untagging photos, trying to scrub the internet of her lies about my financial situation. She missed a few though, Jerry said, showing me his laptop. Screenshots are forever, Howard. If she ever tries to claim this went down differently, we've got documentation. I don't think that'll be necessary, I said. Amanda learned her lesson. She's not stupid, just entitled. There's a difference. Jerry packed up his computer. You know, Danny would be proud of how you handled this. That boy always said you taught him that actions have consequences, but you had to let people learn the hard way sometimes. That hit me right in the chest. Danny had been gone 3 weeks, but hearing his name still felt like losing him all over again. The doorbell rang Saturday afternoon. Amanda stood on my porch with 2 cardboard boxes and red eyes that suggested she'd been crying. I found some things that belong to you, she said quietly. Photo albums from when Danny was little. Some of Rose's recipe cards that ended up in my stuff somehow. I let her in. She set the boxes on the coffee table and looked around the living room she'd planned to renovate. It looks exactly the same, she said. Why would it look different? I don't know. I guess I thought you might change things after everything that happened. Some things don't need changing, Amanda. We sat in the quiet for a moment. Outside, I could hear Mrs. Patterson mowing her lawn, life going on like normal while Amanda's world had turned upside down. Howard, she said finally, I owe you more than an apology. You don't owe me anything. Yes, I do. I treated you terribly. I made assumptions about your life, your finances, your worth. I was cruel when I should have been grateful. I nodded, no point arguing with the truth. The thing is, she continued, I understand something now that I should have understood from the beginning. Danny learned his values from someone, his kindness, his generosity, his quiet strength. He learned all of that from you and Rose. Danny was a good boy, I said. He was. And you were a good father. I just couldn't see it because I was too busy making assumptions based on what car you drove and how you dressed. Amanda picked up her purse to leave, then turned back. Can I ask you something? Sure. If I'd been respectful from the beginning, if I'd asked questions instead of making demands, would things have been different? I thought about that probably. I would have helped you transition to independence, given you time to get on your feet. We might have found a way to honor Danny's memory together instead of fighting over money that was never yours to begin with. Instead of fighting over it, she repeated softly, I guess respect really isn't negotiable, is it? No, it's not. Thank you for teaching me that. After she left, I opened the boxes. She'd brought Danny's baby pictures, Rose's handwritten recipes for chocolate chip cookies and Sunday pot roast. Small treasures that had somehow ended up in the wrong hands during those chaotic weeks after the funeral. I thought about the past month, the funeral, the confrontation, the legal resolution. Amanda had learned an expensive lesson about assumptions and respect, but I'd learned something too. I'd learned that quiet strength doesn't mean silently accepting disrespect. I'd learned that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply tell the truth and let people deal with the consequences of their own choices. 3 weeks later, I was reading the Sunday paper when my phone rang. It was Jerry Foster. "Howard, I wanted you to know Amanda called me yesterday." "Oh." "She asked me to thank you. Said Columbus is working out well, she's got a good position with a digital agency down there, and she's learned to ask questions before making assumptions." "Good for her," I said. "She also said to tell you that Danny would be proud of how you handled everything, that you taught both of them that respect is earned through character, not inherited through marriage or demanded through volume." Today, I'm sitting in my kitchen, the one Rose and I designed together in 1987, minus drinking coffee from our old garage sale pot and thinking about lessons learned. The house is quiet, maybe too quiet sometimes, but it's mine. Free and clear, just like it's been for 37 years. The trust fund is still there, earning interest, waiting for whatever comes next. Maybe I'll travel a bit. Maybe I'll finally finish that workshop in the basement that Danny and I started before Rose got sick. What I won't do is let anyone make me feel like a burden again. At 61, I've learned that respect isn't inherited through marriage, demanded through volume, or earned through sympathy. It's built through character, maintained through dignity, and lost through cruelty. Amanda thought she could rewrite history because I didn't fit her picture of what success looks like. She saw my simple lifestyle and assumed poverty. She saw my quiet nature and assumed weakness. She saw my grief and assumed vulnerability. She was wrong on all counts. Sometimes the most dangerous person in any room is the one who doesn't need to prove anything. Sometimes the wisest voice is the quietest one. And sometimes the best lesson you can teach someone is to let them teach themselves. If you're reading this and you've ever been underestimated because of your age, your modest lifestyle, or your quiet nature, remember this. Quiet doesn't mean weak. It just means selective. And when quiet people finally speak up, smart people listen. Respect isn't negotiable. It never was. Never let someone's loud confidence convince you that your quiet wisdom doesn't matter. The loudest person in the room is rarely the smartest one. Real wealth isn't about what you show the world, it's about what you've built when nobody's watching, and the respect that comes from living with integrity never goes out of style.